I was kind of curious, like, if this is actually gonna be the first time him seeing it, like, that's gonna be fucking awesome. Like, literally his face just like lights the fuck up. This is a cut with an X-Acto knife glued on top of each other, and then he's just like, holy shit. And that's when he was like, you are a talented motherfucker. And I'm like, damn.
And here we go. What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Los Cut It, and you're in the cut with today's guest. But first, let me introduce to you my buddy, my brother, the co-host for today's episode, the one and only Mr. Carlos.
Yo,
directed by X. What's up, man? What's that next to you, man?
For a lack of better words, I mean, it's a whole work of art, and in and of itself, there's nothing better to introduce our guest.
Yeah, Mr. Rob. Dude, first of all, I mean, if you want to go wide, Rick, real quick, look at this. Look, these, so for the viewers, check it out. These work of arts are made of layers of colored paper, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, bro, feel free to explain it, bro. Kind of what you brought us, and kind of give you a quick little context to the viewers.
Yeah, so I guess you could call myself a paper artist. I started making these portraits about probably 8 years ago. And yeah, they're just layered pieces of cardstock that are cut and glued on top of each other. And then a couple of the ones like in front, and this one I started to use like some mixed medium stuff, like for the grill on his with the tint, and you know I got some joints in their mouths on those two. So
real joints too. Real, like Seth Rogen got a real joint, and you can't. I don't know if you can see it on camera. What does it say on the bottom?
Break glass in case of a weed emergency.
So dope, man.
Thank
and
you, man. I appreciate
that. I
I
gotta get straight to the meat and bones, because this is probably the most frequent question you get asked is, how much does these cost?
So it really depends, like on the photo and how big people want it. Roughly, like ballpark now, I'd say anywhere from like $1,000 to like 1,500, 1,800.
Oh, okay.
Just depending on like how big it is and stuff. But and then like to bring it to a next level, I started doing like the full color replications of like literally doing exactly every single color in the photo. And those are very time consuming. Those are probably like on the 100+ hours.
Wow.
So like when it comes to price, like those are about double. So those are about, you know, $3,000 to $4,000.
Oh my.
Yeah,
God.
it really varies, right? Because art is so complex and it can be subjective. So I'm assuming there's a lot of complications into how pricing works with you, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it like really one of the big things is like how many people are in the photo, because like really it takes a long time just to do like one person, and then if you have a photo that has two people, then it kind of like it just, because I have to go through and I have to like really fine tune and edit each person and their facial details and stuff, you know, because they have different skin complexions, different, you know, facial expressions. And so that's kind of what I've been doing recently, is like really just like focusing on like the subject and then just getting it as detailed as I can, and just to make it like super high quality, you know?
So to give a backstory for those of you guys watching, and Carlos, I don't know if you know, I went to the Chris D'Elia show.
Oh, you were actually there?
Yo, I was there.
Oh,
so
I didn't know
let
you were
me
there.
explain what happened. Right, I went to see him. We finally came to Chicago, because I travel a lot, as you know now.
Yeah.
And I was gonna be home that week. I'm like, hell yes. I ended up buying tickets and went, and it was so good, wasn't it?
So funny.
So fucking funny. I didn't even know he was having a meet and greet. Like, I had no clue. I heard about it later. And I'm like, oh, you know, it is what it is, and ended up going home. Fast forward about a week later, I'm on YouTube, and then I see, you know, Chris D'Elia started vlogging all his shows, and that's in the Chicago one. I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, oh shit, let me watch. I might be in it, you know.
Yeah.
You never know these things. And sure enough, I'm watching the whole vlog, and then I could spot myself in the audience in a couple clips. It was really exciting, and at the very end, that's when the clip came out where you were in it, and you did a meet and greet with him, and you pulled it out, and you showed him what you did for him, which I will display it on here. And, you know, one artist to another, bro, I saw that shit, and I was just like, what? At first, I didn't know what it was. Because if you guys take a look at, like, the what is it, Method Man?
Yeah.
If you see that, it might look like a painting to you guys. It might look like but it's literally layered fucking paper. And as I'm studying it and dissecting it through the vlog, you showed the recap of how you created it.
The time-lapse video.
The time-lapse.
Yeah.
And it was just you, like, fast-forwarding, just applying all the layers. And you did a really cool voiceover with Chris D'Elia. And, I mean, to the point where you had Chris D'Elia crying and shit.
Yeah, bro, that was crazy.
I'm not sure at the time. I figured, you know, Chris D'Elia's in Chicago. This guy got to be in Chicago.
Yeah.
And I reached out to you. I followed you, and you replied back. And I had to get you on the show because, like I said, one artist to another, bro. Being from Chicago, I wanted to just show how talented people are in here in the city, and you're definitely one, bro. So I need to ask, like, how does it work? Like, you have a picture, how do you cut all these individual pieces? And I seen you had some type of thing where they were like measured, and then you were like you had a little thing you were pointing them out. And I mean, tell us the process. If you don't
Yeah.
mind.
So I'll take a photo, any photo. It can be from a cell phone, a professional photo. And I figured out a way to break the photo down on Photoshop into like different layers. So basically what I do is like the whole thing is mocked up on Photoshop. That's actually where like probably 20 hours of the work goes into. So that's how I started. So I take the photo, bring it to Photoshop. I figured out a way to break it down into however many layers I want, right? So when I first started making them, I would just do that, exactly that, and then just let it go, and then send it or transfer it to paper. So I have like a vinyl cutter and or something that could trace it. Or actually, originally when I started, this is used to take so much time. Before I got like a Cricut or a big vinyl cutter, I had a projector that I would project onto a wall, and I'd have to like make sure the dimensions were right, and then I would trace each layer with pencil,
Wow.
and then I would go and I'd cut out each layer by hand.
Oh.
Right. And so when I was first doing these, like they
How
would
long
take
ago was this?
I started doing these about 8 years ago.
Wow.
So, well, actually, you know what? Actually, now since we're here, let me backtrack. I'll tell you how I
Cool.
kind of
Yeah,
got into the whole
for sure.
thing. So, I graduated high school in 2005.
Okay. Same. 35.
I just turned 36.
I'll be 36.
Literally like a week ago.
I'll be 36 in 4 weeks.
Yeah,
July
nice.
23rd. Yeah, go ahead.
There you go.
So I graduated 2005. I went to Northern Illinois University right out of high school.
Okay.
I didn't really know what I was doing. Probably a dumb decision because I didn't really get anything out of it. I was skipping class and just partying and doing all this
Were
shit.
you always artsy? Like,
Yeah,
through-
I
through high
was.
school,
So I
or
was like, I was doing art, and I was really actually big into music too. So like growing up, I was in band. I was a drummer. So then through like high school, I was in drumline for 4 years, and then even after that, like I was doing stuff for like I was playing drums for like hip hop artists in the city, different
You're
DJs. So
artist at heart.
yeah, so like that was actually like my first passion was music forever, and like that's really truly like what I thought I was gonna end up doing. Like that was like my ultimate dream was like I want to be a drummer, I want to be a musician, I want to
Sick.
be like find success like in the music industry. So I went to Northern. I originally was majoring in mechanical engineering, which was a fucking disaster. I don't know why I chose that. I was like, oh, it'd be cool to like draw buildings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Until I realized like, oh, this is like really intense. So the first semester I majored in mechanical engineering, and then second semester I switched to art. So I made art my major, and it was very bizarre because the program moved extremely slow. It was just like a very general, because obviously it was like the first year, but also too, it was just like I was in all these different classes, because we had like a drawing class, we had a graphic design class, we had like a live, portrait class and stuff like that. And I would finish it in like a week. Just not to like toot my own horn, but it was just like it came very easy
Natural,
to me,
yeah.
So, and I'd be like, well, I'm done with my final, and I'm like, well, what do I do for the next 7 weeks? And they're like, oh, well, you don't have to come back to class. So I'm like, well, this is kind of shitty. Like, so I had all this free time, which honestly, come to find out, was very beneficial because when I was in that graphic design class, because I had all this free time, that's actually when I learned Photoshop. And that's actually in 2005, I made the very first paper portrait that I ever made. Because I was in this class and I had figured out how to take a photo and turn it into layers. And then there was an idea that sparked in my head. I was like, what if I took those layers on the computer, somehow transferred them to like paper and cut and glued it on top of each other, right? And it just worked. Like I printed it out. I would cut the layers out, trace them, by hand. And so in 2005, I made the very first, I guess you could call the, paper people. Didn't think anything of it. Never made another one ever again.
What did you make first?
Of myself, actually. So it was actually like a self-portrait,
Nice.
Didn't think anything of it, never made them ever again up until 2015. And in 2015, for some reason, a good buddy of mine, I wanted to get him like a really unique gift. And for some reason in the back of my head, I was like, I wonder if I could figure out how to make those portraits again.
Wow.
So like legit for a 10-year period, I didn't touch them. And then I'm like, you know what? I think I could figure it out. So like I rebought all the Adobe stuff, re-downloaded Photoshop. I'm like thinking in the back of my mind, like, I think I remember the steps on how to do it. And I did, and I figured it out. But at that time I was like, you can't just like you kind of said at the beginning of this podcast, like when you just look at a picture of them, like you can't really see what they are, you
Yeah.
know? So then I had the idea to do the time-lapse videos. I was like, cause then you could actually see it
And
being,
appreciate it.
yeah, you could
Literally.
actually see it being built, and you can understand that it's not just like a photo, it's not a painting, it's
Right.
actually like cut layers of paper glued on top of each other.
Right.
So I did the time-lapse video of that one in 2015, and then it took off.
kept
Like
skyrocketing, huh?
I didn't even like, I had no idea. It was like, I did that one, and then I had all these people like message me. They're like, I want one, you know?
Wow.
And at that time I was still working a part-time job. I was still doing the music stuff. And I was really just doing it for a hobby. Like I was spending 40 hours on these portraits, and I was charging like $100
So
just because I love to do it, you know?
Right.
Like it was just like, it was a passion for me.
So
at
let me
that
ask you
time.
something. You're an artist, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people really love to find that spark, that passion. So what was it about you that you found that spark and you made it happen as a side passion? Like how did you finally start to make it happen? Because a lot of people have so much talent and so much potential, but they're just stuck in that rut where
That or they're scared to take risk and give it up. Like I'll have somebody that's into photography but still wants to work at Lexus because it's a guaranteed salary a year.
Yeah.
So they're scared to just take that leap of
Exactly.
faith. What did it for you?
So I'll
Oh,
actually,
yeah. Are you doing this full time now?
as of right now, yes,
Okay.
I am doing it full time. Actually, last summer I just incorporated it into an actual business, so now it's my full time job.
Did the Crystalia thing help a little bit?
I mean, it definitely so what actually happened was it was COVID. That's the reason I started doing these full time, which is wild. But yeah, I mean, obviously the Chris Lee one was huge, you know, like that's just like so much promotion for me, and like, you know, gets me so much traffic to like, you know, my page and stuff and whatnot. But to go back and answer your question, so I'll kind of tell you a little story, not to get like down and sad, but it is kind of sad. So in 2012, my best friend passed away in a tragic car accident.
Oh man.
I don't want to get into the details of things because it's pretty bad. Someone that was so close to me, and then, you know, literally at the flip of a switch, like he was gone. And it was just, it was really bad, man. Like I was in a really dark, low place in my life. And like, it was just something I experienced that like, I never knew there was like that much pain in something that really had a big impact on my life and just everything in general. And it took me a really long time to like recover from that. Like
yeah.
thinking back now, like if I were to go back and have to like go through that again, like I really should have like seen a therapist to just help me
Right.
like get all those emotions and all that, you know, just everything out of me. But I didn't. Like it was something that I like couldn't explain. It was just, you know, people always say like, you know, time heals, and that truly is what happened.
Nope.
And like once I like had the grasp on that, because I experienced that firsthand. And once I was able to like wrap my mind around that concept, that's kind of like when I started to think like, I don't want to work a bullshit job. I don't want to work for somebody else. Like I feel like I have this talent and this ability to like create, whether, you know, at that time it was music, you know, so like that was my passion. But everything I've always done, like I've always just given it 100% and just like really wanted to be the best at everything I do,
Oh, dude, yeah.
you know? And so like around, like I said, 2014, 2015, I was doing these part-time. I was just, yeah, like I said, I was doing these as like a hobby. And I was working a part-time job, and I started doing these and people started having me make them also for people who had passed away, like, you know,
Wow.
whether it was like a family member or something. And I really like to see their emotions from like giving them something that like just brings them back just like a little bit of happiness from someone they lost. And not all of them are people that passed away, but those were really the ones that like kind of made me realize like these are very powerful, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like, it was such a cool feeling for me to be able to like help out somebody that's like grieving or going through like a hard time, because I had experienced that and I knew what that feeling was. So like when I started noticing that like these things really like had an impact on people, I was like, holy shit, like I think this is what I want to do.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
because
That wow moment.
yeah. So like then, like I said, in 2015, I made that one for my buddy, just out of nowhere, and then it just took off.
A
And
lot of
then,
a lot of life's hidden blessings can manifest themselves in the way of adversity. So, was that a big major adversity that you had to overcome, or is it anything earlier that happened in your life?
no, I would say that was pretty much the big moment in my life where I kind of just like turned everything around,
Wow.
because like I was just, I was young, I was going through the motions, I was just like didn't really have. I always had a passion for something, but never like to the extent where I was like, I want this to be my career. I want to like really move forward with this. And then, like I said, yeah, that happened, and it just like completely changed my perspective on how I like looked at life, how I looked at like, just like I said, the fact that like if I'm not here tomorrow, like what do I have to look back
What
on?
did you leave behind? Yeah.
Exactly,
Facts.
And like for me, like the thing that's cool about these, which I realize is like even if I weren't here tomorrow, like I still have. I think the one I just made for you was number 342.
Your legacy
Yeah,
lives
can you
on.
grab that for me, bro?
Yeah.
I want to show the audience. 340. Did you mark that in the back?
Wow.
Did you really?
I started labeling them, yeah.
Ah.
Was
The
it
legacy will
322
live on.
342?
Yo, guys, so if you get a zoom in over here. So he did a dope Black Hawks. He was like, yo, I always see you with the hat. Fun fact, I'm going to tell you a funny ass story that happened to me last weekend in Orlando. And look, if you look at the back, he got his signature on there and number 342
Yeah.
right here. So this is dope.
So
342. At least you keep track of them. Sometimes I think, like, I've been doing hair for 24
Yeah.
years. I'm like, imagine if I would have kept track of every person that I cut.
Right.
What number would you be at?
Oh, guarantee? Fuck. It'll have to be somewhere between 5,000 to
Holy
7,000
shit.
people.
And that's within the lifespan of like 8 years, right? 8 years.
8 years, yeah.
Wow.
So number one, well, actually, they're actually kind of all backed by one, because the first one I ever made, I never numbered. But then when I started making them again in 2015, I started with one. I started a little spreadsheet on my phone that literally every one that I do, I number them, I date them, who it's for. That way I just have like, a record. And to get back to that point, like if for whatever reason, like, knock on wood, I don't, hopefully this doesn't happen, but if I weren't here tomorrow, I still have 342 portraits floating around
They'll
that,
live on
that could
forever.
become
you know what
fucking
I'm saying?
valuable.
Like,
bro.
and that to me, like that really means a lot, because it's like I have something that like lives on beyond me when I'm gone, and that's just, I don't know, it's a good
I
feeling.
mean, dude, same goes for you, though. Right? Your videos, me, like whatever I created, Ricky, his
Live on
photos.
forever.
Right.
As artists, I feel like that's in and of itself, that's a way to leave a good footprint in
And
it.
it's, yeah, and it's super cool, and especially when it's something you love to do, and like,
So like, what's like the craziest work of art that you've done, and where is it currently living in?
Oof,
It
I
could
was
be like
about
in
to
a
ask that,
mansion
guys.
in LA, in Miami.
craziest,
Calabasas.
So like the craziest portrait that I've
Yeah,
made?
like where is it at right now?
Oh God. I'm trying to think. The ones that I make for celebrities are like probably my favorite to do, just because like I have full control over like
Yes.
the photo, the colors, like the style, the frame, like a lot of the commissions I do are they're a lot of the same. It's a lot of black and white, just black frame, which is fine, because it's, for either someone's anniversary, someone's birthday, someone's this, that.
You have a lot of cool stuff, man.
Yeah,
I was doing my
thank you.
homework last night, and I was looking at the Dylan Francis you did.
Yeah, that one was
Sick,
cool
man.
too. Yeah.
So sick.
That's another funny story that God, I don't want to get into. But all right, favorite portrait. Man. Honestly, I think right now it's probably this meth portrait.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so sick. Like
That's
he has
probably
a
my favorite
grill.
one I've
There's
done.
literally a grill.
Yeah.
And that's you know what it is too? Like as an artist, right? I've done cool stuff. I've had stuff printed. I came out in magazines, so I was like, how do I frame all this shit? So I had an understanding that, dude, even the framing is a fucking skill.
Yes.
Like knowing how to frame your
Yes.
work. So I learned that like by obviously not as great as yours. The Mike Tyson one there is like a kind of, it feels real 3D because you have it's like a background layered, and if you guys can't read it, it says smoke for Mike Tyson, and there's a real joint in his hand, which is so fucking dope. And I'm gonna try to get like better clips of it when I'm presenting the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like these are the things that I noticed, right? It's not just about like, oh look, it's Mike Tyson and the way he did it. It's the framing about it and all that. Like you got the yellow, the black.
Yeah.
Like, is that all? Are you doing all that? Are you painting all that, putting it up together?
No, so I'll actually do a shameless plug here. I met this dude. I used to go to this framer up in the city that was doing these. He was making these portraits the frames for super cheap. He was kind of like working in the warehouse, and I don't know. I think he was honestly just pocketing the money, but it was fine because like he was charging me like $30 to do a frame that was like 24 by 36, which was
Right,
like
it's
hella
expensive.
cheap, But at the same time, most of the other frames I was buying were from Michaels, like just because they were cheap, it was easy to get. And then I like probably within the past, I think it was about 2 years ago or about a year and a half ago, I was like, man, like these Michaels frames are just so generic and so cheap and shitty looking. And I'm like, I'm spending 40 plus hours on a portrait and then I'm putting a fucking $30 frame on this
Yes,
thing,
bro, yes.
So once like I started thinking about that, I'm like, no, you know what? I need to find a framer. I need to find like my guy. So literally I just did a Google search because it was right when I moved to the city and I was like, I don't know anybody. I don't know any framers. And I just so happened to find this dude on Google. He's up in Lincoln Park. It's Terrio Art and Frame. And I went to him and his prices at the time, his prices were very reasonable.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, like this might work out, And he did one. And then from then on, like I've been working with him for the past like probably year and a half.
Wow, nice.
And he has some really cool ideas and is always shooting stuff off me. And then like for this one, I was like, oh, like what if we did like, a half of it yellow, half of it black? And he's like, yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's so
He
sick.
does a very, very good job. And like I said, I'm grateful that I found him and I have that dude that I can go
Right.
to get my stuff framed whenever I need.
Yeah,
to.
like this is my video guy, right? My photo guy.
Right, exactly.
I'll
Find
focus
When
on
you
the
find
hair.
those people,
They-
it's
they-
just a seamless
Right,
workflow.
it makes everything so much easier because
Yeah.
now I'm like, oh, I don't have to try to slam this portrait into a Michaels frame and shatter the glass and
How
like,
did-
all
how did
this
you
dumb
find him?
shit, dude. Just on Google,
Google, right?
Just
Yeah.
literally like, and that's the weirdest part because I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be either really good or really bad. And then,
Right.
like I said, I met him for the first time. He did one portrait for me, and I was like, oh, like he
Nice.
knows his shit. He's really fucking good.
That's
Yeah.
sick. Older guy, younger guy?
Oh God, I can't even. I would say he's got to be 40s or 50s.
Okay.
So he's older than me.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, he's just got like a little small shop up in Lincoln Park, and he just does really, really good work.
That is so sick.
So
man.
sick.
So, how does one get a hold of you, man? I mean, is it just directly DM, or do you have a website, or how does that
No,
work?
so I just have social media. So like
Okay.
Facebook, Instagram, email, of course, TikTok. But yeah, like, and that's all I've needed. That's all I've used so far. It's just like
powerful, man.
literally, I've never paid for an ad. I've never paid for marketing. And it's just like word of mouth. It's like I do one portrait. Next thing I know, it's like I book two. And it's just strictly been from like the time lapse videos, posting everything to Instagram, Facebook,
Sick.
doing the ones for the celebrities to try to get, some traction and stuff.
Isn't
like
that awesome, bro? Because you get to feed your creativity, right? You get to scratch that itch, but also once you give that portrait to somebody, then they share it. with their own
Right.
Stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's ultimately that's the goal.
That's the
Such
goal.
an
But there
organic
has,
way.
I mean, I won't name names, but there has been a handful of celebrities who have not shown me any love whatsoever, but it is what it is.
Like they'll just leave you on scene type
It's
stuff.
either that, it's even like I've given someone a portrait and like in person taking pictures, they're like, holy shit, this is dope. Like, when we get back to the office, we're gonna hang it up, we're gonna tag you, send me the video, send me this, and then just like ghost me.
Wow.
And I'm like, what the fuck?
It happens,
it's just
bro.
like-
Yeah,
it's a very weird situation to be in because I'm like, we literally met, we talked. You said you were gonna do all these things, and then you just even unfollow me on Instagram.
100%.
And it's
Oh
like
my
it's so
God,
shitty.
dude.
Dude.
How long have you been doing celebrity work?
Yeah, who was your first celebrity that you were like, I just decided to do a new celebrity? Who is it?
So I was actually just thinking about this before I came over here. The first big celebrity one I did was for Ice Cube.
Ooh.
And this was like literally when I started. I think I had like 400 followers on Instagram. I didn't reach out to him. I didn't like reach out to anybody of his team. I was just like, oh, I'm gonna make a portrait of Ice Cube, right? So I made the portrait. I didn't even know how like hashtags worked at that time
Yeah.
on like Instagram. I was like, what the fuck's a hashtag? So like, I figured it out. I posted on Instagram. I tagged him. I used hashtags, stuff like that. Didn't think anything of it. About 2 days later, I literally woke up to my phone. Like I couldn't even unlock my phone because
They just
it was
kept
just like
coming
the notifications were just like
Wow.
literally
Those were the
firing
days when
so
they used to literally
fast,
just
dude.
drop,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I was like, what is happening, you know? Because I didn't realize that he had like posted or anything like that. So I was able to get onto my Instagram and I saw that he had reposted on all of his social media. So like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everything,
Wow,
and like
that's
tagged me in it. And I was like,
That's love.
holy shit, you know? And so I went from like 400 followers on Instagram to like, I think it was like 2,500 or 3 grand, like in like a day. And like, so that was really cool for me. That was a really, really cool experience. And that was probably the first one that like, I realized like, holy shit, I can get like in touch with these people. At the same time, I'll tell you a weird story about that is because that was the first one I did. And I was like, oh, like this is Ice Cube. He has like 6.5 million followers. I got in my head, I was like, oh, well, every celebrity is going to do the same thing.
Right.
So it kind of fucked me up and kind of like got me.
Expectation wise, yeah.
Yes.
man.
And like, so then I just had these expectations that every celebrity that I make a portrait for is going to do the same thing, show me the same kind of love. And I figured out real quick that it wasn't like that, you know?
Unfortunately, but I get it, right? You can empathize with them. 'Cause They have
Right.
so much going on. They have so many people giving them stuff, and I get it, right? You can empathize.
Right, exactly.
But I mean, that's how you know, like Ice Cube is a real dude.
No, and that, but like I said, at the same time, it was really cool because I was like, whoa, like this actually works. Like I could actually keep doing this, you know? So then eventually, like, you know, I would have commissions, and then whenever I would get some free time, you know, I would do one for a celebrity. And now I've come to the realization, I have the mindset of like going into portraits, even like this or these two, like to not have the expectations of them and not expect them to do anything in return.
Just do it out of love. and
Exactly.
passion,
You
yeah.
know, and then once I started doing them like that, then I kind of like, if they don't repost it, if they don't even like it, then I'm okay with it because I can't expect them to like give me something in return when they don't even know that I'm doing this for them, you know? So once I like realize like, hey, like just expect nothing, and if you get something of it, then that's cool.
Yeah, you'll be
If
blown
not,
away,
yeah,
man.
That,
Like-
that formula is perfect for long term, man. That's gonna get you
Yeah,
past this.
absolutely.
Because I mean, dude, who would have thought, right? From you thinking, just because maybe you're a Chris D'Elia fan, I'm gonna do Chris D'Elia and his son. Because he's all, you know, you watch his podcast, which I do.
Yeah.
He's always talking about his son. So you went from that to Chris making a vlog to me seeing it, and now you're
Right.
in the fucking podcast here.
Exactly.
So he's like, you never, if you would have, since you came in with zero expectations, like all this seems pretty cool. Like damn, but if you would have thought that maybe Chris D'Elia was gonna take you on a fucking private jet and have you travel the
Yeah.
world, you know, you would have been disappointed.
And it's like obviously like I
Perspective.
like to like you know set my bar high and be like, okay, like how far can this one go, or like how much, you know, can I not that I can get out of the person, but like what if this is such a cool special thing for them, like they have to like, you know, either repost it or do something. So it's always kind of exciting, just like wondering what's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's the cool part.
But now, like, kind of like to your point, it's like there's been so many things that have just trickled off some of these portraits. Like you just said, like you seeing it, reaching out to me, and now I'm fucking here doing this podcast with you, which
Crazy.
is I appreciate
course,
1,000%, which is awesome, you know? So it's like that's kind of like where it's at now is like I have all these kind of like different things happen because of those. So it's not like a big like, oh, I gained 100,000 followers, or like they commissioned me to do another portrait for them. It's like I have these other cool like little experiences or different things that are beneficial to me and like just helping me kind of just move things forward in different ways that I would have never, you know, expected. You know?
Things happen in small little things.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
That's so
you
cool,
never know, because once we share clips and drop this, we might get one person that might reach out to you that might take you to the next level or next
Right.
event. Like it just it's like a lot of people do think or feel like when it comes to being successful, like as cliche as it sounds, people think it happens overnight. But you'd
No.
be surprised, bro. Like when you really look back and you're like, damn, I've been doing this shit 10 years. Finally getting recognition.
Yeah.
People don't see those 10 years, right? So I think with you, bro, I mean, like I said, as an artist, and I'm around, if you know what I do, I'm around
Yeah.
so many talented people, from like artists, painting. I got my guy, have you heard of Rob the Original?
I don't think so.
This motherfucker goes on concrete walls with a machine and carves out portraits and all that.
Damn, that's
So,
dope.
I mean, he does everything. He'll go on a car with a paintbrush and
Yeah, his
and
canvas
off
is
the top.
toast. It could be toast,
Anything.
salt. It could be any type of platform. Or
And he'll create art off of
crazy.
it.
Damn,
So like,
wild.
but he
I'll have to
started
check that
off.
out.
He started off with hair, right? He got signed with a company, put me on. We started working together, but he just grew out of hair because he was such an artist by heart, and he was just dude. I mean, anything. He'll put a whole bunch of clothes and gather them up, and you get on a second floor balcony and look down. There's
like
a
a
fucking portrait of
face
somebody.
or some shit. Yeah, that
so
shit's fucking
yeah,
cool.
so he's on a whole. So I take a great appreciation when I see artists because I know this takes time. You see the quality. You have to see it in person. You see it, and I gotta ask. So the Method Man's huge. How many hours did that take you?
This one was probably around like 35 hours.
And how do you work it? Are you like me where I'll put 12 hours on a computer session to edit one video instead of taking it 4 hour, or are you kind of like you have a set
So
time?
I kind of have a pretty dialed in routine now. Like I said, so I start off with a photo in Photoshop. So it's like the first probably 15 to 20 hours are in Photoshop. And what's cool about that is like I can see exactly how it's gonna look
Ooh,
while it's in the computer. So it's like that's where I can do all the edits and make sure everything's super like, fine tuned. So I basically get it to exactly where I want it to be in Photoshop. From that point, I transfer the layers to a big vinyl cutter. So I will tell you, like like I said, when I first started making these, I was cutting everything by hand, and it would take just another 20 hours to cut it by hand. And I kind of had this like mindset of like I want to cut everything by hand. I want it to be like super organic and
Yeah.
like, people can see it. And then it just got to a point where I was like, yo, like this is taking so much extra time to where like, does it even make a difference? Like, are people even going to notice, So I kind of had this transition period of where I slowly, because of the time lapse videos, I was like, that's going to be the biggest thing because people are going to notice that I'm not cutting it by hand, So
I didn't notice it. I just loved what I was watching and seeing it come to life. The last thing on my mind was, I mean, I guess it kind of did think about it. Like I kind of picture you with fucking scissors cutting
Yeah.
pieces. So I was just like, even then, but just the fact that you're putting it together was dope to me.
Yeah, and like I think actually, you know what, for like a big one like this, or if it's for like a celebrity, I still sometimes will cut like the bigger pieces by hand just so like, you have all the fucking haters and shit. Like, oh, that's
Right.
not hand cut, that's not this and that.
So I was gonna be
So I was like, okay, if this person's gonna post it, like maybe I'll still cut some of it by hand, So I think this one for like the bigger pieces and shit, I think I cut by hand. The small detail and stuff like that, the stuff that's really time consuming, like I have a vinyl cutter that I use because it just saves so much
Yeah, of
time, So that's kind of the second step is cutting it with a vinyl cutter, and then I'll bring it to the my drafting board or my drafting table. I'll film the time lapse video, put it together, and then the next step after that is editing the video, taking the pictures, and then sending it off to my guy to get it framed.
So do you what do you use do you use like certain type of glue that works?
It's this random glue that I've just like, I tried out so many different glues when I started doing this, and it's this company, I think it's called Tombow, I get it from Michael's, and it's like, it sets well, it lasts long, it's just very easy to work with. It's kind of like maneuverable to where it doesn't really set in place right away, to where like if a piece is a little bit off, I can move it for a little bit before it finally gets tacky. So that's just the glue that I've been using for a while. But yeah, it's just like
Did you have
regular.
to go trial and error before you got found that glue?
Oh, it's so many. I bought probably every single
What's the worst glue to do that with?
Elmer's.
Elmer's?
Yeah, sorry Elmer's if you're hearing this. Probably not.
There goes
but-
the sponsorship.
Yeah, but it's just like I think it's because it's like I don't know if it's like something about it's either like a alcohol or water based to where it would bleed through the paper. So you could see all the glue marks and shit because like it would literally like it's like a liquid and it would bleed through the paper, and then all of a sudden I have all these like glue lines and shit. I'm like, oh man.
What's like the hardest part out of this piece?
Oh, the grill for sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because like I literally have to poke every single one of those little diamonds with a X-Acto
Wow.
knife, place them. Like, yeah. So this one for sure, the grill, because just to like get it everything in line. And like also I'm such a perfectionist to where like if it's just a little bit off, I have to like redo it,
Same.
get it lined up. You know what I mean?
You're
let
like
me ask you
OCD
this.
on it.
Before we got on camera, you were saying how Method Man, their people reached out to you and they wanted to purchase it or receive it in a sense, and you had already sold the original.
True.
Was it exactly the same replica, or are you happier about this one than you are about the other
It
one?
was identical.
Identical?
Like exact same paper. And it actually, so the reason this one even came about was a good friend of mine, Tony Reyes, he does this art show. So he owns a tattoo studio in Indiana. And every year he does an art show around Halloween and it always has a theme. So like last year's theme was I want to say it was like 80s skateboarding. So I did a portrait of Tony Hawk, like
Damn,
on
sick.
a skateboard. I wish I still had that one because that one was super dope. And then this year the theme was Wu-Tang. So I made this portrait and he actually bought the original. Shout out to him because that was just awesome. And then so to Cal, which is Method Man's weed company, you know, I had tagged them, didn't even know them, nothing like that, but I tagged them when I posted this to Instagram, and they had reached out to me like a few weeks later and they're like, yo, like, do you still have this portrait? And I was like, oh man, I'm like, no, I'm like, I actually sold it at the art show. And they're like, okay, they're like, well, would you be willing to make another one? You know, and we could get it to Method Man if you do. And I'm like, well, holy shit. I'm like, yeah.
Fuck
So I actually ran it by Tony, the dude who bought the original, because I was like, hey man, like
It's supposed to be a 101.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. You know, and I was like, listen, I know you bought the original and, you know, they reached out to me. I just want to get the go ahead from you because, you know, you have the original. I don't want to like, you know, step on anybody's toes or anything like that. And, you know, if you're cool with it, like they told me like they'll help me get it to him. And he was like, dude, absolutely. He's like, do it. Like, that's fucking awesome. And he was super excited for me, which is really cool. So then we kind of, I made the second one. We went back and forth over the past like few months, and we were trying to get something lined up. Like they were like, hey, we have a show out in New York around April. That one didn't work out. And then they're like, oh, we have this festival coming up in Detroit called Spark in the Park. And I was like, well, that'd be cool because I can actually drive, you know, it's only,
Right.
you know, 4-hour drive. So yeah, so I made it, everything worked out, and man, those dudes were so cool. Like
Yeah.
the fact that, like I said, they reached out to me, like that was just fucking awesome. Like, and
Yeah.
they, like I said, me and my girlfriend went out there, dude, they treat us like family. Like
Dude,
they were
that's awesome,
such very, very genuine.
And then Method
people.
Man's so in right now because of the Power. You watch Power Goes to?
I don't.
Oh my god! So that shows like 50 Cent obviously behind you and all that.
I definitely, I heard of it. I
So
think
he's
I've
the
watched it
lawyer in
before.
there, and obviously that's why he's really relevant. And which, in my opinion, I thought that's why you did it. The Wu-Tang story is actually pretty
Yeah.
cool because, dude, you know, Method Man's a legend.
Right.
So sick, dude. Like I seen that.
Thank you,
You
man.
got to meet him. How did that work? How was that?
It
Were you
was
nervous?
it was awesome. Yeah. So that was it was weird. Like I'm pretty good with like not really fanboying, even with like Chris D'Elia, you know, because I was
Right.
like a huge
Nah, you played it real
Chris
smooth,
D'Elia
dog.
fan, and like it's almost like not that like I like black out, but you kind of just get in one of those modes where it's like you're kind of just like on like autopilot, where like after the Chris D'Elia one, like we literally left like that meet and greet, and I was like, I went to my girlfriend. I was like, did I say anything stupid? Like I don't
to
like
check
I don't
yourself.
remember anything. I don't even remember it. You know, it's like you kind of just like have this like tunnel vision,
Right.
and but this one, like just leading up to it, I was like nervous. I was like, holy shit. Cause I like, just to like kind of freshen up, I was like, I went on like Wikipedia and I was like looking at all the shit that he's done and like the businesses he's created and like the tracks that he's been on. Like he's been on a track with like Biggie and he was friends
Yeah.
with Tupac. And I'm like, yo, like this dude is way bigger than I ever
Iconic,
thought
bro.
he was, you
Iconic,
know?
yeah.
So like, I probably shouldn't have read all that stuff because that actually is what made me super
Right.
nervous, you know,
Right.
because I was like, holy shit, like this dude is I've always been a fan of him and Wu-Tang, but never like really knew his full story. So when I started doing some research, I was like, oh damn, like I really hope I don't fuck this
Dude,
guy
I
up,
can
you
relate
know?
to that in a sense. You know what Frank Ocean is?
Yeah.
I got a call a few years back to cut his hair. I didn't know at the time.
damn.
I knew his music. I'm like, I'm big on music, but I'm so focused in my career and like what's
Yeah,
going
yeah.
on in my world that I would only hear from like, as far as sports and all that, highlights and all that, I don't really pay too much attention. So I got a call to cut Frank Ocean up. And I remember putting the phone down. I'm like, does anybody know who Frank Ocean is? And one of the stylists at the shop at the time turned around. He's like, no way, don't tell me about to do his hair. And I'm like, yeah, today at 7 o'clock. And everyone was making a big fuss about it. I was like, cool, I guess this guy's a big deal. Didn't think about it. Cut his hair. Cool, over with. And it wasn't until after that I really did my research. Like, who is this guy?
Dude, this guy messaged me like, "Oh, just cut this guy. He's pretty big." He's like, "I don't know if you know him."
Dude, but yeah,
It's
it
Frank
ended up
Ocean.
Frank-
being,
Like, bro,
ended up being
like-
so fucking big. And like, I got so many messages after. Like,
that's
people were like,
fucking
"No
awesome.
way!" But if I would have had known that before,
Right.
whoo, that would
That's
probably
what
been
I'm
a scary
saying.
haircut.
Like,
Oh,
yeah, it like just totally like changes because you're like, oh damn, like I didn't realize this would do is this big, you know?
Right? Like, holy shit.
yeah. But man, like he was, yeah. So like we went to the fest, which
How's the
was
fest?
it was really cool.
Okay.
It was an all weed music festival, which I
Hip hop.
yeah, and
Oh, that must have been fire.
yeah, and like I'm not that big of a weed smoker. I'm actually like a very unproductive weed smoker.
Same.
Like if I smoke, if I take one hit during the day, like I am taking a nap.
So it was like a Rolling Loud for like Detroit, right?
Yeah, and it's like I think this was actually the first year that they did it. So it was kind of small, and actually the day that we went, which was on Sunday, it rained the whole day, weather was shitty, but just like the whole environment, like I think I realized like everyone was so fucking nice.
Yeah, everyone was so chill.
And I was like, is this because they're not serving alcohol and like it's just the alcohol that makes people like just assholes when you
It's
go to like a
everything, bro.
festival and shit?
The
So like
liquor, the Molly, all that shit.
like so like this festival when I found out about it and I was like, oh, it's all weed. I was like, okay, like I don't really smoke that much weed, so I was like, that's gonna be an issue maybe. And I was also kind of just curious. I'm like, how does this like work? I'd never even heard anything like this. And then yeah, we went and it was just super cool, man. The vibes were awesome. Everyone we met was super nice. Just it was a really cool experience. So like he performed, and then after he performed is when he came to his tent, where the Tecal booth was set up. And yeah, just got to meet him real quick
So
and chit
sick.
chat, and he was just such a nice dude, man.
Did you get a video of you giving it to him?
Yeah, so I actually I posted that on my Instagram and on TikTok recently, and actually, yeah, that video just like blew my fucking.
Bro, you'd be
TikTok up,
surprised.
bro. Like
Sometimes
out of
that in and of
nowhere.
itself can get a lot more traction than the process, because that tells a story of you finally
Yeah.
putting your
Yes.
hard work and
Yes.
and part of your soul really is just right to him.
That's why to
direct.
me it was so impactful. Like, yeah, when I saw the vlog and I seen you give it to him, and right off the bat, as soon as you removed the cover and you saw Chris and his kid, it looked so cool. But it wasn't until you started showing the time lapse
Yeah,
that to me I was like, oh, this is so fucking fire, right? So like you said, it's like sometimes, like for example, I could sit here and do a whole production on a haircut and have a legit 8 hour to 10 hour edit for a video that looks so cool, but that probably won't hit as something as simple as me showing the guy the mirror and him looking at his final look.
it's those emotions, man.
Is
It's like
that's what will connect and get so many views, but
It's that like raw reaction that you get that like really like people are just like
attached to that
they're
shit.
they're like
So
People buy from people.
yeah,
exactly.
facts. So seeing
You have
that,
an awesome story, bro.
my point to that, seeing that on like on the vlog and seeing all that on social media looks so dope. But man, when you pull that bad boy out the bag today, and I didn't even realize you had a grill on it. When I seen it in person, like how did he react to it? Because obviously he must have seen it before you showed up, or was it?
No, I really think that was the first time he seen it.
Oh, what was
So,
his
like,
actual reaction?
So that's what's crazy is so like the original one I made was back in October, November. I think that's when that Wu-Tang party was at my buddy's tattoo shop. And so I had posted, I posted all on Instagram and like I tagged him. And obviously, like I said, I'm in the mindset now to where like if he doesn't see it, he doesn't see it,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I'm totally fine with it. So like he never reposted, never liked it, nothing like that, but his team did, which was dope. So this whole time, because it is his team that reached out to me, I had been curious, like, had they shown it to him? Has he seen it? Because I was kind of curious, like, if this is actually gonna be the first time him seeing it, like that's gonna be fucking awesome because that's
Yeah.
like really like when you get to see their like,
Genuine
real reaction, right? So when I got there to the fest and I was talking to the dude that I had been in contact with, Raz, I actually asked him, I was like, has Matt seen this yet? And he goes, honestly, I have no idea.
Wow.
He goes, like we tag him and stuff and we, send stuff his way, but like, I honestly don't know if he's actually ever seen it. I was like, okay. So I was kind of like excited because I was like, well, if he hasn't, like, this will be really fucking cool, And yeah, so like in the video, like when you see me walking up, like I have it face backwards and you can kind of tell like, cause it's the very end of the night, bro. It's like 10:30. He's been there all day.
Yeah,
He
he's
just got
tired.
done signing autographs. Like he's a busy schedule,
Yeah.
So like, I'm just trying to like get in real quick, get my shit done, get a picture, explain myself and get out. Cause I don't want to disrespect his time, Like I
course.
realize those people have crazy schedules and I'm just some like random dude, just like, here you go. I made you some art, and like,
yeah.
I'm sure they get that all the time,
Oh yeah, 100%.
So like I had it facing the other way, and like when I didn't realize it in person until I watched the video afterwards, because then I could actually like see his face, and you can kind of tell I'm just like, oh, I'm an artist. I make porch style layers of paper, which sounds childish as fuck. Like, oh, I glue paper on top of each other, But like when I turned it around, like you could like literally his face just like lights the fuck up, and then he like actually once he sees, and I tell him like, yeah, like this is cut with an X-Acto knife glued on top of each other, and then he's just like, holy shit. And that's when he was like, you are a talented motherfucker. And I'm like, damn.
You must
I
have
guess
some
so.
type
Dope,
of
dude.
like a high right when you receive
Oh,
that
bro, I've tried telling people this before. Like, it is It is. I can't explain it. It's like a feeling that like is just like such a rush and that's like what I chase now. It's like those like reactions and those emotions because that like really like is just so impactful for me and really means a lot to me. Just like the fact that something that I made, you know, and even like the Crystalia one, like the fact that like literally halfway through I'm done or halfway through I'm showing the video, like I turn around and he's in tears. And like, you know, I read through a lot of the comments, people are like, oh, that was fake, this and that. I'm like, yo, like I was there, like that was legit. Like that was a legit
I felt that shit.
reaction.
That
And
shit
like,
felt real to me.
I'm like, that was pure raw emotion. And like, just to think that like something that I was able to create for
Did that.
for a
Damn.
stranger was able to like bring that out, like, you know, because like I said, him too, I'm sure he's had so many people make him different stuff and art and stuff like that, but like to see that like impact that it has, it's just like that is a high that I just like am constantly chasing. So then we see him at Rockford, fucking hilarious, and then a couple of weeks after Rockford, he announces that he's doing the Chicago show, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna definitely buy meet and greet tickets, right?
Hell yeah.
So I go to buy tickets, and there's a VIP package you could buy, but it doesn't say anything about a meet and greet. So I'm like, well, that's weird because I know that the Rockford show specifically said like meet and greet with the VIP tickets. So I bought them because they were pre-sale. So I bought tickets for me and my girlfriend and had no idea that they were even meet and greet tickets.
Wow.
Up until the week before the show, I called Chicago Theater and I was like, yo, I bought these tickets to the Crystalia show. It says it's a VIP package. Like, I just want to know like what that includes. And they're like, oh, well, it includes a meet and greet, includes a photo after the show. And I'm like, oh shit, this is a meet and greet. They're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. And this was on like a Tuesday. The show was on a Saturday.
Man.
And so I'm like, do I have to? Like, this is my chance, you know?
Stop.
It was meant to be.
So like legit.
You did that shit in less than a week?
4 days, yeah.
Wow.
Because I was like, it's either now or never, you know? Like, I have the tickets. So then I was like, okay, make the portrait, get all that shit done. And then I was like, I don't even know if they're gonna let me into the theater with this giant fucking portrait in a frame, you know?
That shit
So that was
big. It was like, what,
yeah. So
dude.
that one, yeah, I think that one was like 18 by 24. So that was the next complication. I was like, okay, portrait's done, video's done. How do I get this portrait into the theater, you know? So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna wing it and just like literally carried it there in one of these white bags like I brought today. And dude, it was so crazy because security, like when they're patting you down, didn't even ask what was in the bag.
Wow.
They make me take everything out of my pockets, you know, like they do the pat down, they do the metal detector, and I'm holding this giant square that's like wrapped up in a fucking garbage bag. They don't even ask about it. I'm like, okay, well, that worked out. And then I'm like, I talked to some of the people that were working there, and I'm like, I'm doing the meet and greet. I made a portrait for Chris. Like, what do I do with this? And they're like, oh, you just have to put it at the coat check. So I literally, it was $3, left it at the coat check, watched the show, and then picked it up after the show. And then the meet and greet was downstairs after the show.
Were you close to his last one or one of the first people to meet him?
I purposely made myself last in line.
Because that's what it looked
Bro,
like.
yeah.
The video looked like you were the last one. You could tell he was fucking tired.
Yeah.
But you brought that.
Because I was like, I don't want to be like cut off by somebody.
Impactful.
I want like the most time. So I kept I'm like, oh, just go in front of me, go in front of me. I was like pretending like I was like fumbling around.
What if
the
he had like
bag.
3 people to go and he was like, all right, guys, this is my time.
Oh,
Man.
dude, like that. Oh, I would have been so heartbroken.
That would have sucked for real.
Bro, you probably have such amazing stories of having the process of that a lot of people don't know of.
Yes. I have so many.
Dude, that is, man.
Crazy.
So many. There's a lot of bullshit that people don't see that like looking back now, like is funny to think about, but also it's just like so much stress, so much like just literally bullshit that I'm just like, man, like this is not easy. Like, you know, and people see what's on my Instagram, which is like, it's a highlight reel. They see the final product. They're like, oh, you got to meet so-and-so, you got to do this. And I'm like, yes, but you didn't see all the shit I had to go through to like make this happen.
That, man.
Like,
you should post
I know.
that. Yeah.
That's like,
it's just great storytelling for you.
and that's like, honestly, like the videos that have gotten the most views and the most reactions are the ones that I post of like the interactions, you know? And like, so that's really, I'm starting to get into that now of like posting, because I don't really do much of like Instagram stories or like posting myself or like stuff like that. I don't know. It's just like something that I haven't been comfortable with, that I'm really trying to. And that's actually a question I had for you is like, how did you get into like really just like owning social media? Because like you're a fucking beast at it too. Like you're like, your Instagram, your YouTube, like the videos, the reels you make, like all your content is just like
It's,
so like just very professional.
A lot has to do with learning from one another, right? Me, I'm 35, will be 36, 25, 34. So I'm around different age demographics and allows me to pick up on what's relevant for this age, my age. Me being at my age and being and having, you know, how many times do people say, man, I wish I knew then what I know now. I would be a beast. Well, then why not implement what you know as a guy who's 35 and be around people that are killing it in social media? They're in their 20s and sharing your knowledge, but at the same time getting from them. So that has one. And two, I treat it like a fucking job.
Right.
You know, like you. I'm gonna be real with you. I hate posting stories.
Oh God, it's a fucking
I'm never. You'll never see. It'd be very rare, but I'm not the type to get on my camera, show my face, and talk. I do that because it's more of a job and something that I know that people eventually want to see. And sometimes I have to force myself. And sometimes I do get insecure and be like, I don't have a haircut. I'm not getting on camera, or my beard ain't lined up. I'm not getting on camera, or I don't feel fresh. And there's all these little things when in reality, man, what I've noticed is that people that are hitting and that are really in there are they just don't care. They show face early in the morning, bad breath. They expose everything. So one, I've always wanted to be known for my work, not for my life and who I personally am, which is why everything I share is hair related and art related. So I'm okay with not posting me. And even though people tell me all the time, well, you got to be out there, put yourself out there, Los, if you want to make it. Because to me, realistically, I am not chasing fame. I don't care about being famous. To me, it's more about the legacy that I leave behind, what I do, and being financial secured. Like that's my goal, is to be stable financially. And I know I'm talented in so many ways that I can help someone who's coming up, help them come up even better and let them be the people that are shine. Because to me, it's just more about just letting my work speak for itself. And however far that gets me, that's how far I'm going to get. So to you, my advice for you would be like, it's going to be uncomfortable. I hate it personally. Like me, like I had to remind myself when you got here, fuck, I got to post a story that you're here because I think it's really cool that people want to see that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come naturally to me. Like I could easily go and experience this whole day and not post once.
Right.
But then I'll have Carlos on my back like, man, Los, you should have shared that. That was pretty cool. Which makes sense. Man. Like makes sense. People want to see it.
And that's cool. Like, I mean, that you got a team too, and you got a homie that like, you know, reminds you or is like, yo, like this is, you should do this or you should, you know. And for me, like, you know, I have my girlfriend who helps me out with a lot of stuff and really is
What does she do for a living?
So she is actually, she's a graphic designer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And she's an art director for a advertising agency out of San Francisco.
Nice.
So she was working for a company in Chicago for a while. And then, yeah, so now she works for kind of a smaller agency, but yeah, so like a lot of this stuff, like some of these portraits, like if I'm like super stumped about like what to do with the background or what to do with the color, like I can always run ideas off of her. And she, you know, she's just always like a different perspective and a different like breath of fresh air just to like make me think differently than how I do when I'm like struggling to like put the final touches on things, you know? So like, it's definitely awesome that we're both kind of like in the same area of like, you know, art and like graphic design and stuff like that, which has been huge.
It is so dope.
But yeah, like I said, to have somebody that, that's what I was gonna say is like, that's really the only person that like, you know, is there. I don't have like a team. I don't have like other people working with me. It's like, and I feel like that is a big struggle for me because I have to do everything. Like I have to do the communications, the emails, the invoicing, the money shit, the
one-man team at the moment.
Yeah, and it's like literally 70% of my day is just spent doing the bullshit, and then it's like, and then I have, you know, 30% of my day to actually do the art. So it's like, that's kind of right now where I'm trying to figure out like how to.
You don't have any nephews, any little brothers?
No.
Yeah, scaling, as an artist, scaling really is the struggle for an artist, is having to scale.
Yeah, and then especially too, like, because like I said, last summer was when I finally like incorporated into actual business. So now I'm trying to like learn how to actually do the business stuff, which I never expected to do. It's just like, I just want to make the art, you know, but that's really just a very minute part of like the whole process. It's like all the other stuff that you have to do. So now, yeah, it's like I'm trying to figure out.
It's almost like it's not enough time.
I don't know if
not at all,
man. I don't know if it's possible.
But it's either like just like hiring like an assistant or honestly just someone just to like answer emails, because like that just takes up so much time.
Yeah.
It's like
you got to understand your pros and your cons. And
yeah,
I know my pros and I know my cons, and that's where you Los would
Right.
speak
And you
on
guys
this.
probably
Delegate.
work,
You gotta
work
delegate.
very well
Delegate,
together.
man.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. Like for a long time, I did what you're doing, right? I learned video, photos, not just cutting hair. I would travel to educate. I would run a business. I would work at a shop, take care of a full clientele base. Like, dude, I was a one man fucking army.
Yeah.
But you have to. It's hard to say because there's no recipe to how to get a team unless you got money, right?
Exactly.
If you got a lot of
That's the
money,
thing,
then
too.
fuck, hire people.
Right.
But with us, it was just connecting with certain individuals that see the vision like you see the vision, and then they can gain from you and you can gain from them, and it works both ways. But my thing with you, bro, I think what would help. I mean, it's so tough to say. Like, how do you delegate, right? Like, you have to get the funds for you to hire people.
Right. And that's the thing is like, right now it's like the income I have coming from all these portraits, it's like, it's just enough to like
to cover the
sort of
overhead.
make me survive, pay my bills. I can still go on a couple of vacations every year, do my thing. But it's like, I don't really have that extra money right now to like pay somebody to be like a video editor or pay somebody to be like an assistant.
Well,
or
Carlos
something,
does, which kind of made me change a different perspective because he does video. I don't know if you ever seen his work. Oh, dude. After off camera, we'll show you some of the best fucking videography you've ever seen. And not only does he do it like on camera, he's one of the first to start doing it with a cell phone before that was even a thing. And now that cell phone's a thing, is like he's so grandfathered in. But he used to stop taking work, and he just started focusing on certain projects and really focusing and keeping his energy on things that matter, even if it meant saying no to so many people that just wanted a fucking highlight reel of them driving a car or just the most basic video, because most people would think, hell yeah, because I know a lot of videographers that will take so many projects that have zero meaning to them.
Right.
It's just more about the people.
And then your work just kind of gets like monotonous to where you're just like, you're
just working. You're working for the people.
And that flame of your passion just gets like diminished.
Whereas in the Method Man, as in all of these that you've done based off what you want to do, that brought joy to you, right? And even though it may feel like it ain't getting you nowhere, to me, those portraits are going to be the ones that might get you further.
Right.
Instead of, and obviously I still have to cut hair, pay my bills and all that, but I'm not posting these regular haircuts. It's the cool shit that I do for free sometimes that gets viral and gives me bigger opportunities.
Right. And that's just it too, is like, like I I said, 95% of my commissions are like someone for a birthday or an anniversary or a wedding or someone passed away,
Then what you should do, then again, right, do you teach people your ways and then have risk the fact that they're going to start doing things on their own, copying your style? That's what
here's the thing. It'll never be implemented the way you do it, man.
True.
Right.
You'll always have your special sauce.
And that's the thing, which is crazy too, is like I've, a lot of people, when they find out what I do, they're like, oh, like, do other people do this? And in the 8 years that I've been doing this, like I have searched Instagram, YouTube, everywhere, like to try to find, and there are like other paper artists that are doing stuff that's similar, but not like to the level of like detail. Cause I spend so much time just like literally just like little pieces here and there, like just perfecting it. And I feel like that's really what sets me apart from the other artists that are doing the same thing, is like, I go in and fine tune every single layer, every individual layer. I'll go through and I'll like edit it and I'll make, different adjustments here and there. And I feel like that's kind of just like what makes the whole creation, like at the end, really pop and like make it, that.
Now imagine this, your immense talent along with amazing social media strategy combined into two. Because a lot of people, like videographers and barbers, you could relate, Los, they have the skill set. It's great. It's not outstanding, right? But their social media and storytelling skills are great, and that's why they're blown up, right? I'm sure you've
and I've seen that a lot too. Yeah, absolutely.
But you kind of have it a little easier because you're already good at your craft. You're a master. You're getting to that point where like, hey, I could talk my shit, right?
Yeah.
But now mixed with social media strategy, then that will give you a good runway.
If you need a different opinion and different eyes and all that, you could get Ricky, amazing photographer, does a lot of high-end fashion shoots. This guy just worked with fucking celebrities and he's building his own brand in video. So we all have different eyes and different visions. So you get everybody's info, and what we do, we all have a team, and we sometimes get opinions. Because sometimes I'll do a video that thinks, because I'm in my world, in my own vision, in my own head, and I'll send him a clip. What do you think? And he's just like, nah, bro. Like do this, do that. And
honesty though.
Of course. I even told Ricky when I first started working with Ricky, he was like a yes man. Like every time I would say, like, yo, what do you think of this? Oh, fucking dope. And then one day I was like, dude, just be real. Like, if you really don't like it, I need to know why, because you have a different vision than I do. And when I put it out to the world's gonna look at it different than what I look at. So I need to hear that. So it works out, man. We share with each other. Sometimes the little tweaks that I'll tell him to make on his videos will be a big thing, and vice versa. And same thing with his photos. So if you ever have anything,
Yeah, bro.
send it my
Yeah,
way.
bro,
appreciate
feel
that.
free, man. Don't think that if you just have that tunnel vision, you can't get external
Yeah.
opinions.
No, and I
we love
appreciate
to
that
help
for
people
real,
out,
because,
especially
like,
from Chicago, man.
Yeah,
Always
because
here.
like I said, that's kind of like the boat I'm in now, where it's like, okay, like I feel like I mean, obviously I'm always continuously learning, and like, you know, I always want to make portraits better and better and better. But like now I'm just to the point where I'm like, okay, how do I really execute on social media? Because that's like the biggest thing, is like, then that's really just where, not that I struggle, it's just I don't have the motivation to like put towards like posting something every day, making a reel or an Instagram story, you know. But I do
You're in the
know
right
that it
place.
is like very beneficial, because that's everybody I see that I follow on Instagram, like that's what they're
You
doing.
just
you know?
have, you know what you have to do, bro? You have to make it a part of the process.
Yeah.
I think what you're doing,
Consistency.
no, not even that. I think what you're doing, you're separating the two. When you create your
Oh,
art,
yeah.
you're creating, you know, you're this and this and that, and then you're like, I don't have it in me to make something for social media. But if you make that social media a part of the project, just like a frame, right? You could create the art, but at the end of the day, you still know I gotta
Right.
find somebody to frame it. I gotta make it look. So make that a part of it, and just figure out a way to make it work. And maybe instead of, I don't know how many portraits or pieces you would do a week, but you try to include that and factor in. But I think in your case, bro, the time lapse alone is good
Right.
enough.
Well,
And maybe
not just
the
that,
reaction.
like, bro, you're the content. Document.
Yeah,
yourself.
you,
Just
yeah.
document you having the process. So hey, I have 4 days to finish this portrait. Boom,
Yes.
boom, boom. Oh man, how am I gonna get it to security? And then
Yes.
That-
the
yeah,
whole
that is-
process
yeah.
itself is the content.
And
Yeah.
that's actually one thing I was actually thinking about with this Method Man portrait too, is like, now going back and thinking about it, I'm like, you know what? Like I should document like the whole thing, like, you know, just like driving out there, checking in the hotel, like bringing the
1000%,
portrait
bro.
there before the show starts, like, and then just make like a 1 minute video of the
Yes.
whole thing. Because
1000%.
like you were just saying, like those are the videos that hit, like
Yep.
this one, the Chris D'Elia one, the Dylan Francis one, like where it's like a super cool like interaction, but also kind of like behind the scenes, like, yeah, you guys just answered my question.
Yeah, I mean, right now, bro, to give you some technical advice, and for anyone that's listening that has a similar kind of workflow, is definitely show the reactions. Have someone like record it, or have like a little POV
Yeah.
camera or two, right?
I
Have
do-
a
I do
POV
have
camera
one of
and then
those.
have like someone's reaction. Boom, post that. Next post is gonna be the process,
Yeah.
the whole story behind it, and then do like part 3. The third post would be the actual making of that.
Yeah.
Or a
work.
close up of like, you know, all the, like,
Right.
I don't want to say like I don't want to say your job is easier, or simple, not maybe not easier, simple, because when I look at like the shit that I gotta do, bro, I'm at like we traveling city to city, country to country,
Yeah.
big arenas, big shows, hundreds of people. I gotta do the haircut, different multiple companies, so there's a lot that we have to capture, which is why I have to bring this guy in sometimes because I can't do it. But man, sometimes I sit back and I think back to the days where I was at a barbershop and all I really had to do was just film a process of a haircut and
yeah.
sharing like the before and after, and just that was just one focus. And now we have so many focus because
Yeah.
even the podcast like this, it's a lot of work to film this.
Oh,
to
yeah,
put it in the,
absolutely.
you know, in the back end, upload it on YouTube, create a thumbnail. I do all that.
Yeah.
It might not be easy, but it's simple. And if you focus on that, you can make it happen, bro. Because
Yeah.
something as simple as your girlfriend just walking behind you and recording you,
Right.
and then
that-
you're
she's
just
been a
getting
huge
all the
help with
footage,
that
and
kind of
later on you
stuff,
put a
yeah.
story together. Because you're already doing it.
Right.
All you need to do now is just capture it, right?
Well, really, I mean, and even like the Chris D'Elia one, because it was, you know, he had a videographer there that filmed it, and once I like saw that, like how professional that looked, you know, because I got nice cameras that I shoot this stuff with too, and I'm like, why am I not bringing these cameras with to like film these reactions? I'm like, you know, even, and that was another thing with this Method Man one, is like I brought my camera there, I brought it into the fest, brought everything, lugged it around all day, and then the meet and greet happened so quick to where my girlfriend couldn't get the camera out, so she had to do it all on her cell phone. And I'm like, okay, I need to show her, because like she doesn't really do video. She's really good with like photography,
Yeah.
but she doesn't do much of video, and I've never showed her how to actually shoot a video on my camera.
Right.
So like that wasn't even a thought in my head, but I'm like, yeah, why am I even filming this with a phone when I could be doing this on an actual camera to where
Phones
she
are
could
still
just.
good though. Nowadays,
No, they are.
Nah,
But
But
like,
I think you have a perfect platform where it doesn't matter really what
yeah.
vertical you choose.
Yeah.
A phone, camera, however.
As
I
long
think
as it's
just the
captured.
story.
For
As long as
sure.
it's
Focus on
captured.
that
Yeah,
story and then the reaction and then the work of art.
Dude,
Yeah.
we'll do like high end recordings, and the shit that hits is the cell phone stuff.
I know, and
So-
it's so bizarre, dude. The
Yeah.
algorithms are just like so
Which
weird
is
how
cool.
this shit works.
I think that's a good advantage for you. And then, I mean, at least we can all agree that your girlfriend at least hit record, because that would have fucking sucked if she would have been like,
Imagine.
"Oh, babe, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't hit record." Oh my god.
What was funny is before, like right before he came to the tent, she was like, "Hey, I'm gonna have to use your phone because I'm almost out of storage." I'm like, "Okay, cool, no problem." Then one of the guys from the team, I saw him walking with my portrait into the tent, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is happening right now." So like,
Wow.
I ran up to him and like grabbed my portrait to unpack it, and like didn't even think about her and her phone, and I didn't give her my phone, and I was like, and all of a sudden I'm like, "Oh shit, she needed my phone." Luckily, she had enough space, and she was able to record that video and shit. But it was just one of those things where it's like it happened so fast.
Oh,
man,
dude, well, I'll
like-
tell you like this. I'll tell you like this, though, and this comes from experience. Now you know.
Exactly. It's like
That
every time I learn
things
something,
like that
yeah,
have to
exactly.
happen for you to understand the
Right.
next. Who's your biggest? Who's the one that you would like? Who's the guy that you want or girl that you want to meet?
Elon Musk.
Oh God, I mean, yeah. I mean, honestly, like I think just as like I mean, Joe Rogan is a big dude. Like
Right,
he's
and
he's like the top dog.
Dude, I know a
like,
few
you
people that
know?
personally know Joe Rogan. I even know a few fighters from Chicago. So let's just say hypothetically, right? Like you had to go through this, so if that ever did happen, you would know now. Like, you
And what's
understand?
funny is I made a portrait of Joe Rogan like 3 years ago.
He always shares art too.
He does, but he didn't share it. And I was like kind of butthurt about it, you know, because I was like, what the fuck? Like, and I always see him posting people's art and
Did he
reposting
like it
stuff.
at least?
Nothing.
Damn, he
right?
probably didn't see it.
Right. Or he did.
Or he
and
did.
so like like I said, I was kind of upset. I was like, man, that's kind of a bummer. Now, 3 years later, I'm looking back on that portrait and I'm like, I am so fucking thankful that he didn't see that, because now I look at the work I'm doing and I'm like, I'm so glad that he didn't see that. And I'm glad that I didn't give that to him, because now it's like that portrait's not one of my best portraits that I've ever made.
And he's so big on like
So it's just-
psychedelics. and
right.
shit.
So it's one of those things where like at the time I was really upset, but now looking, you know, from an outside perspective, I'm like, I'm really glad that that didn't happen, that I didn't give him that portrait, because now I want to make a new one. And but like I said, he's just the GOAT, and that's kind of like the ultimate. Like if I can
if
get a
you
portrait to
did
him,
one,
you know?
and I can't, I'm not gonna promise you anything, but if you did one, if you ever find a time and you did some fucking crazy shit, I know the perfect person that I can send it to. That is one phone call, one text away from Joe Rogan.
Well, I'm
you
definitely
go.
gonna take.
And you
up
never
on
know.
that.
You never know.
Well, like I said, and that's the thing. Now it's like because of you know, integrating different like mediums and stuff, it would be kind of like something that would have to be super trippy and like
Yes.
I would spend. And like I said, now I have a totally different perspective on like, oh, this is what I would do instead of just you know, because the one I did was just of his face,
Yeah.
and it was cool. I still have it, but like,
Oh,
it's
dude.
nothing to like what I could
you
do
make
now.
because you see all
know?
the cool tattoos he be
Oh
posting.
yeah,
you make
bro.
something like that in paper,
And that's
oh,
what
it's
that's what
fucking
I'm
awesome.
saying. So like I said, it was almost a blessing in disguise that it didn't work out, because like I said, now that
You just gotta promise me one thing: if it does go through, and you get a chance, an opportunity to go to Austin and meet him, you gotta let me know, man.
oh, you can come with me.
I'll be your camera guy.
Come with me. Absolutely.
We'll be your camera guy.
Absolutely.
Because Joe Rogan's a big inspiration.
That's what I'm saying. He's just such a good fucking dude, man.
Yeah.
Like, and just I don't know, his brain blows my mind. The fact
Fuck
that
yeah,
like
but
he
so
can
smart.
retain so much information and just such a nice guy, man. Yeah.
Rob, you're the man for being here, man. This is so cool. Thank you for my gift.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
And
got-
thank you guys, man. I
of
really
course, of
appreciate
course,
you guys,
man.
you know, reaching out to me and having me on the podcast.
You got
Any,
your camera.
where do you wanna-
Yeah,
you wanna say
anything
to
you
the
want to share to
people?
people and just let people know how to reach out to you and yeah, how to get the ball rolling.
Instagram, Facebook, Paper People Creations. That's it.
All right, dope, man.
Appreciate you guys.
Hey, guys.
This has been a blast.
Of course, till the next one. Let's go. So dope.
So sick.
Yeah, dude. I look.